When Mary left to visit Elizabeth, she planned to be back in time for the harvest. They lived in communities that were dependent on agriculture. Everything that was eaten, worn, or used for daily life had to be planted, tended, harvested, processed, and stored. The major crops they grew then were wheat, barley, figs, grapes, and almonds. And I'll tell you a little bit about each of these. Now, wheat is cut when it's mature. Once the wheat is turned a golden color and the seed head is hard, the wheat is ready to harvest. Typically, you use a sickle or scythe to harvest, but if you don't have any tools, you would go to each stalk and break off the seed heads individually. Then, the wheat is threshed to remove the wheat berries from the other plant materials. You can slam your wheat back and forth against the inside of a bucket so the wheat berries fall to the bottom, or pick up bundles of wheat and toss them from overhead to the ground. Or you can grab the seed heads and rub them in your hands until the wheat berries are released from the plant material. Winnowing is done next to remove the plant material from the wheat berries and separate them, and it's best done on a windy day. Barley is ready for harvest when it's lost its green color. This shows the grain has stopped growing and filling and has already started to dry. After the barley has turned from green to golden, the heads, ears, and spikes will gradually droop down. This shows that the moisture content is falling. When it's entirely mature, the heads will be totally bent over, indicating that the plant has lost all the moisture it can in the field. When the seed is fully mature, it will be tough to dent with your thumbnail. When biting it, it will crack, and that's the correct ripeness for harvesting the heads. This is best done earlier in the day or later in the evening. Simply pick the ripe heads off the stalks, and a better method if you have a large patch is to use a scythe or sickle. If you need to gather more than an acre, you probably need to get some help. Swathing or windrowing, as it's also called, is an old-fashioned method of drying the grain. The crop is cut, usually at a 45-degree angle. It's placed in rows held together with interlaced straw and supported by the stubble that remains in the field. If you scythe or sickle swath the crop, it will be ready for harvest sooner than one left to mature standing in the field. This can help to prevent the crop from being exposed to bad weather. Now, figs, you need to watch for fruit color changes as the season progresses. The fruit will change as it gets riper, and it's time for harvesting the figs when the fruit necks wilt and the fruits hang down. A perfectly ripe fig will also emit its nectar at its peak and will be soft to touch. It's better to pick a slightly overripe than an underripe fig. And to harvest in the morning on partly cloudy days, you get the best results. Pull or cut the fruit gently from the stem, leaving some of the stem attached to the fig to help delay fruit spoilage. Place the figs in a shallow dish and do not pack them tightly on top of each other as they bruise easily. Use caution when working above your head or on a ladder when harvesting. If you have a tall tree, it's helpful to have an assistant when you pick. It's best to eat, use, dry, or freeze figs as soon as possible after the harvest. We can grow figs up north with the Chicago hardy fig. Check it out. Now for grapes, you're going to use many senses. You'll taste them to see if they're ripe. You'll look at the color for a consistent hue. You'll feel them to evaluate their ripeness. And you also can watch for birds on the grapevines, although if you've left them that long, you might lose your crop. You do want to leave grapes that are be used to make raisins on the vine for 3 to 4 extra days, and you might want to cover those with bird netting so they don't get your spoils. You can harvest the grapes on a warm, dry day by snipping off clusters of ripe grapes. Cut off individual clusters at the top of the cluster stem near where it meets the large grapevine. Keep a large bucket or basket with you so you don't have to hold the harvested clusters of grapes in your hand. Grapes keep well when kept in a relatively cool, dry environment. If you're dealing with a large volume of grapes, preserve them by keeping them in a few clean, dry cardboard boxes. Line the boxes with clean straw to prevent the grapes from getting jostled or squished. And now we'll talk about almonds. Ripe almond fruits look like small grayish-green peaches. The fruit ripens from the top of the trees down, and when the tree's fruits are split open to reveal their inner shells, it's time to get to work. First, rake up all the already fallen fruit and put it in containers. Then spread blankets or a tarp under a tree, shake the branches, collect them in containers, pop the almonds from the hulls, and spread in single layers to dry. You can cover them with fabric and set them in a sunny outdoor spot from early morning until sunset, and move them under cover during rain. Stir them several times daily, and when the almond kernels rattle inside their shells, they're ready to eat. So now you know more about wheat, barley, figs, grapes, and almonds. Merry Christmas!